not get it.
The show of competitive banter.
Did.
Here's Tony
Jackie,
Reale.
you lost it early, and it just went downhill from
We'll
there.
give you 20 minutes before we do that story. How about that? Thursday Night Football. Let's start there. Washington, Dallas. The fight for the 10 seed in the NFC. So if not playoff spots, maybe jobs on the line. Kirk Cousins' future in Washington, Jason Garrett's future in Dallas. Here's the quote from Jerry Jones. I think what you're seeing this week is what good coaching will bring us. This is where you call on good coaching. Clinton Yates, is Jerry Jones putting the heat on Jason Garrett's seat right there? Is he making tonight a must-win game? Is that how you read that?
I think he is, and I don't think he should be. Listen, Jason Garrett was still the coach of the year last year. Let's not forget about that. Although, what the problem has been is that this team has started collapsing at halftime, and it's been a complete disaster. They've gotten outscored 72-6 since the half in the last 3 games, which if you just look at it as a fan, you say this guy has no idea how to make adjustments. But think about this. If you're going to give Dak Prescott a pass in terms of his development as a result of what's happened with Zeke Elliott and the offensive line, at some point you have to give Jason Garrett the same benefit of the doubt. I don't think this is the game he gets fired. But if he loses to the Giants, yeah, he's out of here.
Israel Gutierrez, what did you hear from Jerry Jones there?
Well, it's funny to me. What I heard from Jerry Jones is him just finding a reason, right? Because, of course, he's not going to blame Ezekiel Elliott, or, of course, he's not going to blame his GM and insult his players and say maybe we weren't built as well as we thought we were. Of course, he's not going to blame Dak Prescott because, listen, as much as Dak Prescott has shown some sort of signs of regression here, you're talking about his backup being a guy with a great name, Cooper Rush, and he's got fiery red hair, and who's not in for that? But you do not want that guy on the field. And so who else do you blame? You blame Jason Garrett. And it's an old narrative. Sorry about that. It's an old narrative just being recycled. And, of course, everybody's just going to fall through and say, oh, yeah, you're right. It is the coach's fault because they don't know what the problem is. And probably number one is Ezekiel Elliott being absent.
You went through a lot of people you could blame with the fall of the Cowboys this year. Another name you could blame is Jerry Jones. We've had that discussion before as well. Jackie Mack, you can pick it up from there.
Sure, the Jerry Jones jostling with Jason Garrett at this very
wow.
Okay.
That's how you get points on this show.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, this is an old, I'm not going to say the word Israel just said. This is an old story. Let me put it to you that way. Jason Garrett has been around longer than I ever thought for an impatient owner like Jerry Jones. He has 2 winning seasons, and 1 winning playoff game. He has so many 8-8s. I can't believe that he's still in the position he's in for an owner that's all about excellence. So if something happens to Jason Garrett, I don't think anyone has a right to be mad about it because he's really been the epitome of maybe above average or mediocre since he's been there.
Bill Plaschke.
Yeah, Jackie, it's fully mediocre. I can't understand the love coming for him from some panelists on this show. In 7 seasons, won 1 playoff game. There's been 8 other coaches who have had at least 7 seasons tenure right now. 7 of them have been to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, he's clearly underperformed based on other NFL coaches. And everybody says, well, yeah, Jerry Jones is a bad general manager. That doesn't mean Jason Garrett is a good coach. And Clint, you talked about him winning Coach of the Year last year. Well, he had Ezekiel Elliott last year. This shows that Coach of the Year, just like Dak Prescott, was Quarterback of the Year last year because they had Zeke. They don't have him now. They need the coaching. It's not coming through. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already lost his job. I don't see how he can
you want to
keep his
address
job.
that?
No, I was just going to say he still won it, which means he did the job with the guys that he had. And listen, on some level, Jason Garrett being able to deal with Jerry Jones is quite admirable as far as I'm concerned when you're talking about who that owner is. Look at the distractions he brings to that team on so many levels. I'm not saying that I think the guy's the best coach in the NFL. I'm saying I don't know that there's a lot of people that could do that job in that circumstance.
And Jackie.
Here's the thing, though, Clinton. You keep saying, well, this guy's hurt and that guy hurt. Take any NFL roster and go down it, and you'll see that each team has 3 major players that are lost for the season. Almost every single team. So that's just not a good enough excuse in my mind.
Israel after the horn.
I'm just going to go ahead and play narc on this show. Did Bill just call out Tim Kalishaw, or was it Clinton Yates? He's talking about some panelists on the show defending Jason Garrett.
No, you two guys. I'm calling out you and Clinton. Both of you defending Jason Garrett.
You go get him, Bill, baby.
That was the full point from Bill Plaschke, too. I'm calling you out, says Bill Plaschke. Mary's son. Real quick, both these teams probably need to win out to have hope at the playoffs. Who you got tonight, Jackie?
I'm going to take the Washington football team.
Clinton?
I got the Skins, Kirk Cousins playing for a whole lot more money.
Israel?
Cousins and them boys.
Bill Plaschke.
The Washington football team.
We'll move on. Let's talk basketball. Let's put up that Warriors stat again. That lineup is minus 16 this season. They were plus 72 at the same point last year. Needed overtime to beat the Lakers last night. They lost to the Kings a few nights ago. We're not stepping on people's throats like we used to, Steve Kerr said. Bill Plaschke, you were there last night. What did you see from this Warriors team? And what's the difference between this Warriors team this year and last year?
It was weird last night. It was almost like they were going through calisthenics for 4 quarters. It was like they would play hard, and then the Lakers would catch up. Then they'd stop playing, then they'd play hard again. They really were unfocused and just kind of messing around. And then they got to overtime, and they kicked it and floated it into gear. And you look at the numbers. In Steve Kerr's first 3 seasons, only 9 times did they blow a double-digit lead and lose a game. They've already done that 4 times this year. They weren't going to do that last night against the Lakers, but it just shows. I think they're bored. I think I think it's very. Steve said it before the game to the reporters in the tunnel there that it's hard coming back trying to make it a 4 straight NBA Finals. It get through games like these, 2 seasons like these. I think they're just bored. I think they'll be fine, but they're clearly bored. And they're clearly
same question
around
to Israel. Then, what are you seeing with this Warriors team, and what did you hear in that quote from Steve Kerr, not stepping on people's throats?
Yeah, this certainly isn't the first time a team with super high expectations hasn't really fulfilled those expectations early on in the season. But what I read from Steve Kerr was, I'm not worried about that right now. And to me, that says, well, these Golden State Warriors, the way they beat you is with execution. Now, obviously, great shooting, but they execute and they play great offense. They're a fine-tuned machine, so you don't want to sort of check in every once in a while and say, hey, check in on the tuning. You know what I mean? I think that's some sort of piano reference. I don't really get it. But you check in on them and you see if they're still good. And right now, they don't look like themselves, and it just looks like complacency and boredom. So you sort of have to reset that every once in a while and check in and see, hey, can we get to that level? Can we play that defense? Can we execute the way we normally do? And I think they know that they can, so that's why
they know they can. And you're saying it just looks like complacency. It is complacency. They're minus 16 with the death lineup. Clinton, you can answer this question. What if the death lineup isn't as deadly?
I think that's what we're talking about here. You know, Steve Curry says, I got a guy hurt over here, I got a guy hurt over here. You know, what do you want me to do? Look, you look at that team and you say, when they broke the record, that was amazing. You cannot expect that to be the standard that you're going to see for that squad going forward for the rest of time. Not to mention, the Lakers had a huge game. B.I. blew up. 3 other guys scored 20 points in that. I mean, look, I am not looking at the Warriors and saying, oh, my God, that team is a bunch of bums. Because, hello, it's early in the season, and they know what they're doing. That's what experience buys you. That's what Kerr is referring to.
Specifically, Jackie, what have you seen from the death lineup that's minus 16 net this season?
Okay, so can I call a little bit of shenanigans on your death lineup numbers here? Because go all the way back to when the Golden State Warriors had Harrison Barnes in their quote-unquote death lineup.
Right.
Go back and look at the numbers. Off the charts. Much, much better than when the death lineup with Kevin Durant was created. Now I ask you, a raise of hands, please. Who would rather have Harrison Barnes in the death lineup or Kevin Durant? Wouldn't you all prefer Kevin Durant? Yes?
Okay, I don't think you're going to get an argument there, but I don't really see where you're going here. I guess where I'm going here is that those numbers, like any numbers, can be manipulated. You don't have to worry about the Golden State Warriors and their death lineup as long as Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are healthy, neither of which, by the way, right now are. Steph Curry's dealing with a bad finger. Kevin Durant's had some problems with his ankles. When it's all said and done, they'll get healthy, they'll be back in the finals, and they're going to win again. Okay?
You know, I saw it up close last night. It got to overtime, and Curry just said, get out of the way, give me the ball. He scored 13 points in the overtime. Durant scored 4. The rest of the Golden State Warriors scored 1. These guys can take over when they want to take over and when they get focused. They're going to be fine.
Israel. Did somebody just sound surprised when Jackie predicted that they'd win the championship? Because that's not changing for anybody.
No one's opposing that, I don't think. But my question was,
I just don't...
if you've seen the death lineup as much as we've seen it, and we're asking more from the lineup earlier in the games, later in the games, maybe teams can begin to not figure it out per se, but play against it in a different way. That's my question, Israel.
No, there's a lot going on there, and I don't think you pay enough attention to the Steph Curry finger situation. I mean, how many times have you seen him shooting so poorly as he has lately? So this team is still, again, it's a work in progress.
He had an air ball. Minute left in the game, he threw up an air ball in a very tight game, although he did hit the shots in overtime, so that's why we're not leading with Plaschke's Lakers today. We're going to move on. Talk about the OKC Thunder. They lost to Orlando last night, who have lost 9 straight going in. Whew. And they're 8-12, and they're shockingly bad late in games. I saw this in a Washington Post piece. The Thunder 1-9 in games within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. That's a record worse than every team in the league except the Mavericks. Israel, what's the primary problem with OKC right now, and can they figure it out?
The problem, Tony, is exactly what we thought it was going to be. They end their plays way too often in isolation. They do not move the ball enough. And here's the problem with that is it's not the best way to get an efficient Carmelo Anthony. It's not the best way to incorporate Paul George into an offense. And it's certainly not the best way to get the best out of Russell Westbrook, who's shooting at Allen Iverson-like inefficiency levels right now. And that is not a compliment. So it is on Russ, as he said after the game, for him to sort of reel everybody in. And they do need to build around him, but it cannot be an isolation game just because that's what he was so good at before, and that's what Carmelo Anthony is good at. They really just need to move the ball.
Clinton Yates, your view of it?
When all three of them are on the court, they're fine, outscoring opponents by 50-odd points or so over 400 so minutes. But when it's just George, they're not so good. And here's the thing. Let's think about this, guys. How are the Knicks doing without Carmelo? Seem pretty good. How are the Pacers doing without Paul George? Seem pretty good. It's possible that this combo just isn't that good because the talent melange isn't quite there.
Jackie, are you beginning to think that with a French accent? Like Clinton said, that the talent, when you put it all together, is not as good?
N'est-ce pas? No, n'est-ce pas? No, 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 no. I think this. I think it. I know. It means nothing. It means nothing. Okay. At the end of the game is the problem, and Clinton. All three of them are on the floor at the end of the game, and that's where all their problems lie. If you look at the clutch usage rates of Russell Westbrook from last season, it was over 62%. It's now under 40%, and what that means is when it gets to the end of the game, when he was last year, he was shooting over 45% in those situations. Now he's like underneath 40%. So what I'm saying is, what they need to do is when they can share the ball, do all the fun things, move the ball around, but at the end of the game, get the ball to Russell Westbrook. I'm sorry, guys. You came here to do something different. That's what they need to do. It's
Bill
that
Plaschke.
simple.
Is that your answer?
Yeah, this is not a whole game situation. This is the last 5 minutes, like Jackie said. Overall, they have the 8th best net rating in the NBA. Don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty good. And it is in the top 8. And
I'll give you points for honesty, not knowing the net rating.
They have the worst defensive rating in the clutch. Again, not sure what that's talking about, but it sounds like they are pretty.
All right, if you don't know, then you're going to get muted. But I'm waiting for Jackie's rhetorical question here now. Who wouldn't want Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook in the lineup late in games? And you didn't ask in that instance, Jackie, and I'm wondering why.
Well, I still think all three of them are valuable on the floor together because if Russell Westbrook's taking it, the other two can act. If he goes in and 4 guys go at Russell Westbrook, I still think Melo can hit a shot at the end of the game, and I know that Paul George can.
Do you? Because statistically, I think if you look right now, Paul George's numbers at the last shot at the end of the game.
I know that. But I still.
Paul, coach, a fair demand?
Well, it's fair to ask it, but again, in this case, I think Jimbo Fisher needs to leave. He's been there 8 years, won a national championship. He's always been in the shadow of Bobby Bowden. He has to go to A&M, get his own program, get his own name there, get his own reputation. He needs to leave.
Israel Gutierrez?
Yeah, even in that setting where you're supposed to be surrounded by Florida State fans or what have you, you definitely look at that and you say, coaches have had tougher questions asked of them. Like, go ahead and answer it. And if you're dealing with that, you should prepare an answer in your head regardless because you know it's real and somebody's going to ask you. So I don't really put this on Jimbo because if you look at his face there, he probably looked like he was going to answer it anyway. I put it on the dude that kicked him out and made that instant decision to make this a bigger issue than it really is.
Fisher has said as much after the fact. Go ahead, Clinton Yates.
Yeah, but this is another school where, expectations are very rarely realistic, particularly when it comes to loyalty. Bowden was there forever. There is no way you can expect some guy to live up to what that was. It was a lifetime, literally. And so, look, if you go to Texas A&M, you can restart. You're still a pretty decent coach. They've been beset by injuries this year so far. I think you make the smart move to get out of town.
Jackie Mack?
I understand where you're coming from there on Clinton, but he won a championship for them in 2013. If you leave now, especially under this climate, which you just saw with that radio show and everything else, I think it taints your legacy at Florida State forever. Now, maybe Jimbo Fisher doesn't care. I think he should care, and I think Florida State should care. Well, here's the other thing, though. He did complain to Florida State. We got to upgrade our facilities if we want to stay competitive, and nothing happened there. So that's the one reason I say to Jimbo Fisher, maybe you should move on.
You did mention the climate at Florida State right now. I mean, as far as climates go, that's kind of balmy. It's not Tennessee, right? I mean, that's a climate. Well, you could
quarterback got hurt first game of the year.
Sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
So that's
yeah. Their comeback this season is clear why they lost their quarterback. We'll move on. Buy or sell two. Duke 91, Indiana 81. Marvin Bagley the third, 4th straight double-double. David Robinson's comparing him to Tim Duncan. Mike Wilbon says he's good enough to tank for. PTI. Israel, is there too much praise here?
No, I think Marvin Bagley's the real deal. I mean, you watch him play, and you can just tell. Even for a Duke player, he looks like the best player out there. He reminds me body type a lot of Jason Tatum, but just with obviously potential to fill out even better. I don't know about the Tim Duncan comparisons, but sometimes you know it when you see it, and that guy's worth tanking for.
Clint Yates.
I'm selling that he's worth tanking for, but I'm buying it. He is clearly better than all of his opponents. His poise on the ball is definitely something to be noted. I just don't know if I see him having the explosiveness that I want right now for a guy that I'm going to destroy an entire season for.
Poise on the ball? Is that something that we're tracking now? I'm not familiar with the stat of poise on the ball.
Per 100
Speaking of explosiveness, Tim Duncan wasn't known as being explosive. He turned that all right. Jackie Mack, how about you?
I think he's worth tanking for this reason alone. Even if you don't get him, you're going to end up with Michael Porter Jr. or Miles Bridges. You're going to end up with someone really, really good that can change your franchise around. But Bagley, I love lefty, floaters, righty, hooks, everything around the basket. He might be the kind of young player that brings the big man back into the NBA game.
Flashy.
You know what I'm thinking, Tony, when I'm watching him? I'm thinking he'd look really good in a Clipper uniform. I think he'd be very, very...
You wrote the tank or bust column. I mean, tank or tank column,
I'm
really.
following that up now with
Clippers,
this.
yeah.
You look at him physically, he's like a man among boys out there. And that's one thing with the one and done.
It's that poise on the ball, really. I mean, it's his poise on the basketball.
It's his lefty hooks.
I'm trying to figure out if that makes sense. Thumbs up or thumbs down on poise on the ball making sense.
I'm going to say yes, because if he's playing good defense,
all right,
I'm
Clint,
going to give
there
it
you
to
go.
him. Yeah.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. Sixers 118, Wizards 113. Simmons 31 and 18, but there it is, your moment of bet. He was on the free throw line all night. Your Zardos, Clinton, put him on the line 24 times in the fourth. Scott Brooks defended the strategy. He said when you're down 24, anything's in play. Buy or sell, Yates?
I mean, I'm buying it. Look, they were on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. They got the win against the Timberwolves already. They're trying what they can without John Wall, throwing everything at it. Got to give it to him.
That's now from a Wizards perspective. Are you buying it maybe from Adam Silver's perspective, who was at the game last night as well?
No, I think it's going to be fine. I think this was a spot scenario. I wouldn't be worried about it down the line.
Jackie Mack?
I'm buying it because it's well within the regulations. You can't do this stuff anymore in the final 2 minutes. And you know what? It often shames players into be better. Think of Andre Drummond. Do you know what he's shooting from the line this year, Tony? 63%. This is a guy who's like a career 38% free throw shooter. So Ben Simmons won't work on it.
I'm selling it. It doesn't work. It's proven not to work. It just stops the momentum of the game. Again, Simmons got 30 and the Sixers won the game. And, and players are getting better. It's going to be used fewer and fewer because, like Jackie said, look at DeAndre Jordan out here. His free throw shooting has increased incredibly.
Good year.
Yeah, I'm with Bill. I'm selling the act, and the league tried to do something about it. Couldn't, obviously, because you could still foul within the first 10 minutes of each quarter. But I'm not worried about Ben Simmons in the slightest. That guy is going to figure it out. He's tough as nails. He might want to figure out which hand he shoots with, though.
No Clash. Israel Gutierrez catching a lightning bolt right here.
Jordan back when he was playing with Washington Wizards and pumping his fist after hitting three-pointers. Was Bobby Hull back when he was playing hockey at 42? The greatest in the game never know when to quit, Tony. They don't know how.
Those are team sports, but most importantly, let's judge the fist pump there. Not the uppercut form you need, more of a sidearm action. Didn't love the arm slide.
Please.
Looks like an umpire calling a guy out. I'm giving him nothing on that. He's not back until it goes all the way.
Okay. Jackie, just for jumping in and not being able to control yourself, that's a three-point answer. I'll give you a point. We'll move on. Showdown 2, Herm Edwards to Arizona State.
Play to win the game.
Makes sense to you, Clinton?
Absolutely, it makes sense to me. Let's talk about it. Herm Edwards is a famous guy. Arizona State is a non-program. You need somebody to walk into living rooms who parents can actually recognize. And let's not forget this, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism is there as well.
And
you
know
can
what
learn
else?
something from it in 2 ways.
Herm Edwards has more energy than everybody on this panel. He wants to do this. The AD is an old friend of his old agent, his ex-agent, so he'll have the support he needs.
This
is a great hire. Yes.
Wow,
Arizona State.
Football and journalism.
Clinton,
Both
if you
from
want a
Herm.
famous person who can get the people in their living rooms to give a FaceTime, you're going to get Jackie Mack to do it. Sorry. 30 seconds, Jackie.
Tony, I emceed an event in Boston Tuesday night honoring Martina Navratilova, and Chris Everett presented her. And the two of them sat on stage talking about their rivalry, one of the greatest in all time in sports. But the most interesting part to me was the two of them, after they won or lost, would end up in the same empty locker room. One of them devastated, one of them elated. When this happened over and over again, 80 times, by the way, they played each other, all of a sudden they realized, I'm going to comfort you when you win, and you're going to comfort me when I lose. And what was result was a lifelong friendship. I'm telling you, it was mesmerizing.
I think you need to comfort